Dr. Hovind, I love your doctoral thesis. I've torn it to pieces with house and gaffle. I can't remember when I last pissed myself laughing. It's a good thing the thesis mopped the piss off the floor.
Welcome to Part 9 of this read-through and peer review of Kent Hovind's doctoral dissertation, which was published on wikileaks.org on December 9th, 2009. If you have not yet seen the first parts of this series, then I recommend that you go back and see those first, as in this episode I will be starting off exactly where I left off in the last. In the last episode, Kent went through various Bible verses on why God hates pride. Now he starts to prattle on about Satan. Let's start our ascension of Mount Moron. Kent continues. When Satan realized he could not take over the throne of God, he decided to destroy what God had created instead. Well, for all his evilness, he sure ain't a patch on God at destroying things. After all, in the Bible, what exactly has Satan destroyed, compared with all the smiting, smoting, killing, murdering, sacrificing, wiping out that God's been doing? I guess Satan just was not God material. Satan, in the form of a serpent, brought the doctrine of evolution to the Garden of Eden. Now, Kent, it neither says in the Bible that Satan was the serpent, it simply says a serpent, and it doesn't say anything in the Bible about the doctrine of evolution. In fact, Kent, if your timeline is to be believed, it took almost 6,000 years for anything to be written about evolution. But we'll carry on. In Genesis 3:5, the serpent says to Eve, "Ye shall be as gods." And seeing as that's only the end of a sentence, then we can't exactly put that into context now, can we, Kent? Pride is the same thing that Satan used to cause the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. And there's the rest of us thinking it was an apple. Satan was jealous of Adam and Eve and their close union with God. Does it actually say that, Kent? Or are you just making shit up again? The same is true today. Satan wants your attention any time you try to serve the Heavenly Father. At this point, I have a picture in my mind of the restaurant at the end of the universe. God is sat on table 12 being served by the waiter, who is patiently taking a drinks order. While on table 13, Satan is jumping up and down going, "Garçon, garçon, can you take my order please? Can you take my order please?" But that's just me. When Adam and Eve fell for the line that they could become as gods, the doctrine of evolution was successfully introduced into the world. Well, Kent, you're doing well. So far, you've managed to come up with half a page of bullshit based on just 5 words. But we continue. Man's pride and ego had been appealed to, and he was no longer content with the status God had given him. Well, there you go. We all thought it was all down to the pursuit of forbidden knowledge and obedience, something that the early church tended to be rather strict on. But you'll learn something new every day. Well, we do, Kent. We're guessing that you don't. Kent continues. Where did it go from there? Genesis 4:3 says,
"And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord."
Cain knew better. Yes, like most small children, God hated his greens. God wanted a blood sacrifice. Well, what good self-respecting, mad, maniacal deity doesn't? God had shed innocent blood to cover the sin of Adam and Eve. Because there's nothing quite like punishing the wrongdoer, is there? No, let's just go nail some poor innocent bastard. Anyway, Cain knew God wanted a bloody animal sacrifice, a lamb to be precise. Lamb chops with mint sauce. Cain thought he could get favour with God by bringing the work of his own hand. Cain promoted the evolutionary doctrine that man can progress by his own effort. I'm presuming that's as opposed to sitting on your arse and waiting for God to do it for you. Yes, and if we'd have held to that golden nugget of advice, we'd all still be sat in the bloody desert scratching our arse, still waiting for cars, computers, and everything else to be invented. The only good thing about that, of course, is that we wouldn't be able to listen to bloody Kent Hovind videos on the internet, would we now? But he goes on. It was Cain's pride that caused him to disregard God's commands to bring a lamb. Well, bring me a lamb, bring me a yam. I can see where he got mixed up. Can't you? Instead, he brought the fruit of the ground, which represents his own effort to please God. A statement like that makes you wonder about harvest festivals, really, and why when they're putting all the produce on the altar, more people don't get smote. But we'll leave that one. When God rejected his offer, he became angry at God. Since he could not hurt God, he took out his anger on God's servant, his brother. In pride, he slew his brother because his brother's sacrifice was accepted. Now, come on everybody, put your hands up if you'd just love to see that concept being brought into the X Factor. The concept of somebody going postal when Simon Cowell says no would liven that show up no end. We are told later on in the New Testament, the New Testament written like over 4,000 years later, the reason why Cain killed his brother. In John 3:12, we
Not as Cain, who was of that wicked one and slew his brother. And wherefore slew he him? Because his own works were evil, and his brothers were righteous.
This is still true today. This, of course, makes you wonder what Cain actually brought God. Was it Brussels sprouts, soggy lettuce, or a ground vegetable in an amusing shape that wasn't really all that amusing? Anyone that does good in this world is hated by those who do evil. And Kent, I think you may just actually find that it's also true the other way round. That is, of course, why good people put evil people in prison. Apart from not paying taxes, of course. Cain's efforts to evolve closer to God met with disaster. I suppose they were, Kent, just like his efforts to grow cabbages. Cain was driven out from his family to wander in the world. His descendants apparently continued rejecting God. Yet we wonder, did they continue to grow amusingly shaped root vegetables? Man, full of pride, will seldom admit that he is wrong. And with that, Kent, we can probably assume that you are the proudest man in the world.